We talked about the market relevance, and then we supported that with value continuum thoughts with the stakeholders. In the planning phase and plan and fund phase, to be exact, we are now slowly thinking about, does our business make money? To a large extent, we are talking about business which intend to be profitable, so we will limit our discussion to such businesses. Very interestingly, all those great thoughts, when it gets broken down into an actual cost of funding and whether inherently the business is successful from a business perspective or a profitability perspective, one of the key introductions that we are trying to bring in at this arrow level is called the skeletal P&L. What is a skeletal P&L? Why the word skeletal? Many times when we interact with, especially in this case, startups, when they ask this question, okay, are you clear about your revenue model? The answer is yes. Are you clear about revenue? The answer is yes. How much does it take to build your business? The answer is yes. The moment we bring it all together into a P&L, skeletal P&L, that is, I don't know all the cost elements, I don't know all the revenue elements, but at least let me put something together. Many of the time, the businesses starts looking very, very fundamentally weak. So why is it important to introduce it at this point in time? If this thought process doesn't get introduced in the beginning, essentially you're going to build a business that is very good for the consumer, customer, all other stakeholders, but inherently for the business, it's not going to make money. We can go to any length to explain this, and which we will do when we get to the P&L templates. But the key aspect is, how much does it take to build this business? How much cost does it take to build a business? Where do you fund it? Should I fund more? Should I fund less? How much am I ready to dilute the business? What is the cost of funding? All these things becomes extremely important, and if we capture them early through a skeletal P&L, because why the word skeletal, maybe I didn't explain that well. Most of the time when you ask this question, let's talk about the P&L, the answer that we get are, I'm not 100% sure, I've not thought about it, yeah, I have got some idea. No. We use the word skeletal because we are not asking you to be 100% sure of what are those elements and revenues that you're going to bring. But progressively, when you build that skeletal P&L, not all the elements, the reason we call it skeletal is because we are not asking them to build all the elements, but at least to begin with, when you start the thought processes, now you are building a business which is inherently financially viable. As we all understand, revenue is always a hope, cost is a reality. So that means when we try to sort of build a business which inherently has got the ability to make money, we need to understand when is the revenue coming realistically, and more importantly, how much cost it's going to demand. Otherwise, there is no staying power. By the time your business starts making money, there is no money left in your company to run it and service the customers. Hence, a skeletal P&L. Now, along with that, there is another very important discipline we are trying to introduce, which is called the operating plan. There is no way in which any P&L will be successful without an operating plan. You might be wondering, I am saying something very, very commonsensical. But however, if you talk to many entrepreneurs or many even established businesses, the entire company runs because of the prowess of a few people. So when you have an operating plan, what it happens is it connects all parts of the businesses. Let's take an example to illustrate. We will know exactly when to have the staffing plan in place and what are the granular details of the staffing plan. Somebody will not be productive in the next 6 months, essentially influence the staffing plan which is a part of the operating plan, to tell the person has to be hired early. For example, if the person is going to be productive in June, it takes 6 months, I hire the person in January. If my P&L doesn't include that cost, now the operating plan is supporting the P&L, my costs are not realistic. Now, Staffing plan being one example. It could be real estate, it could be buying a machine, it could be arriving at a agreement with a third-party vendor for distribution. It could be anything. So essentially, the skeletal P&L is being supported by a very strong operating plan. So P&L, skeletal P&L is the precursor to the operating plan. Operating plan in turn supports the P&L, skeletal P&L in this case. So essentially, we are building a business which we know what to do every day, not by just set of people, by the end all aspects of the company. So hence, the skeletal P&L establishes revenue, cost, funding requirements, and also operating plans on a regular basis whereby the planning gets completed. I'll just introduce one other thought here. I will elaborate this when we talk about the templates. Most of the, at least in the startup ecosystem, when we ask this question, what is your exit strategy? The response always has been, why should I think about exit now? Very interestingly, you're thinking about exit not because you want to exit, but you are trying to understand the intrinsic value of your business. The intrinsic value of the business reflects itself in a couple of ways. For example, what is your revenue model and what is your revenue realities and what is the quality of your revenue, and from this we will tell how much do I dilute the business, how much cash I need. So now the valuation thought processes, which in turn can be talked about a little bit of an exit thought process. So early in the cycle, the thought process as to valuation starts coming into the business. I am not going to elaborate this on this, but very important thought I'm leaving with is, as we build a business, we should have a very good exit thought process running, which is, by the way, skeletal P&L is a precursor to that thought process.